You are listening to the Fly the W670 podcast. This is season 2. It's episode 48. Cubs blow it with bad bunts. Don't forget to listen, download, review. Most importantly, subscribe to the podcast. Follow us on all the socials. Fly the W670 on Twitter and Instagram. Fly the W on Facebook. Of course, you can email Crawly and I. Fly the W670 at gmail.com. Crawly, first of all, happy Friday. Happy beginning to a long holiday weekend for most of us. And the Cubs look like they could use another vacation, but unfortunately, there's no rest coming their way anytime soon.
That was an absolute. We were worried about this, Dustin. You and I think when we made our predictions, I said I thought the Cubs would win one of 3, and you said please don't get swept, and they got swept.
You can only laugh. That's why I'm laughing, Crawly. They got swept. They look like a team that had jet lag, especially the first game, which we're going to get into in a second. The offense appears to still be broke at certain times. Starting pitching was over the 3 games, even though we got a quality start from Kyle Hendricks in game 3. We'll get into it, but let's start off with that first game going back to Tuesday night.
Yeah, I was there. Jameson Taillon versus Ranger Suarez. The Cubs, last time they faced Suarez, were able to get to him. This time, not as much. They're going to lose 5-1. And like you said, man, I was at this game, right? And so there was a question of whether they were going to play it or not because the air quality was so bad, very bad.
Was it awful? Was it awful?
It wasn't as bad by the lake as it was the further inland you went, but there was definitely a haze over the field. And it smelled like if you ever had a campfire the next day when you wake up and the campfire is still smoldering, it smelled like that.
Okay. Not a great smell.
No. And so, I mean, between the jet lag and the air quality, the Cubs offense looked anemic. Suarez, the Phillies are hot. We said that last episode. Suarez was 2-1 with a 1.35 ERA in his past 6 starts. He went 7.1 innings pitched. He gave up 4 hits on 1 run, 1 walk, and 8 Ks. But the Cubs, they only had 2 hits in the first 7 innings, right? They finished the game with 1 run on 6 hits. They left 6 men on base, 1 for 5 with runners in scoring position, and Ian Happ hit into 2 double plays. Cody Bellinger and Nick Madrigal really were the offense. They each had 2 hits, so they accounted for 4 out of the Cubs' 6 hits. Bellinger and Madrigal each got hit in the bottom of the 8th, and then Nico Horner singled to make it 5-1, but that's it. So, other than Bellinger and Madrigal, nobody else was hitting the ball, and they just looked like very lethargic. Like I said, I don't know if it was jet lag, I don't know if it was the wildfire air, I don't know if it was a combination of the both, but just didn't look like they came to play.
Yeah, Major League Baseball could have done them a solid by holding that game up and maybe having a doubleheader, either on Wednesday or Thursday. I was following it, and I was quite surprised that game did end up getting played. And everything you said is right, Crawly. It just looked like a team. And reading it on Twitter and following it in the newspapers just looked like a team and that just didn't have their legs back underneath them after they got home from London.
Now, pitching, this is going to be a question what to do with Jameson Taillon. Another awful start for JMO, who saw his record go to 2-6, went 5 innings pitched, gave up 7 hits, 5 runs, 1 walk. But he did have a season high 8 strikeouts for small victories. But if you remember from our hot and not list from the last episode, we talked about Brandon Marsh and Nick Castellanos being hot, Schwarber being cold, but we talked about how Castellanos and Schwarber both loved hitting at Wrigley Field. This was evident from the start of the series. In the very first at-bat of the game, Schwarber would double, score on a Trey Turner single to make it 1-0 Phillies. In the second inning, Brandon Marsh hits a solo home run to make it 2-0. And then in the 5th, Bryson Scott hit a bunt single, and Brandon Marsh would hit his second home run of the game. Again, he was on our hot list, and he showed it. The Cubs were down.
He was hot, all right. He was hot, all right.
Yeah. Not only that, both of them were I was in the bleachers at this game, and both of them went to the right field bleachers, and nobody threw it back. So that's some bad karma right there.
Man.
Cody Clemens would double. Garrett Stubbs drew a walk, and Taillon got Schwarber and Trey Turner to strikeout sitting. But with 2 outs, Nick Castellanos singled to make it 5-0. Michael Rucker pitched a clean inning with Javier Assad, pitched 3 innings of shutout ball, which I thought you would enjoy, Dustin, there. But the story of this game was really Jameson Taillon, and It really, every time he pitches, you're just thinking automatic loss. Like how you just, that's when we do our predictions. I'm like, they're not going to win the JMO game, so then I basically base it off that. He went 5 innings, gave up 7 hits, 5 runs, 1 walk, 8 Ks, and 2 home runs to Brandon Marsh. Now, the beat writers got to talk with Carter Hawkins, and he was asked if Tyone would go to the bullpen at some point in time if they acquired some more arms at the talking trade deadline. And Hawkins responded very politically, but very lawyerly, if you read into it. He said, quote, "Right now, he's in our rotation. We don't have any plans to move him out of it. Obviously, things change over the course of the season, but not the conversation we had."
Do you want him in the bullpen though either? I mean, you might not want him in the rotation, but do you want him in the bullpen? Because he had 8 strikeouts the other night. Now all of a sudden, is he a guy? If he can't take the pressure of starting games for the Cubs, and that's what I think this is. I think this is trying to live up to the contract, and that's the issue. If he can't do that, I don't know if he's not going to be a high leverage situation guy. I mean, you can't have a guy around that kind of money being in the fifth or sixth inning role.
I don't think they're going to move him to the bullpen. I don't know if they're going to have a phantom injury. I don't know what they're going to do, but I mean, it's bad when the guy that you signed to a 4-year big money contract and you're already asking if he should go into the bullpen. I mean, that's a bad sign.
This is Carter and Jed's first big free agent signing together, right?
Right.
Obviously, you have Dansby Swanson too, but everybody knew. I mean, everybody's been saying for 2 years that this was going to be the year the Cubs were going to back it up and get one of the 4 great shortstops that were going to be available via free agency. So at least from a starting pitching standpoint, and that's what a lot of people thought Carter Hawkins' skill set was. They just misidentified this guy so far. So I'm just hoping that it's more pressure and that maybe they can help him out in between the ears and it's not mechanical, because I think Tommy Hodavy's a really good pitching coach, and I think if it was mechanical, Tommy could have fixed that by now.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that could be going on, and right now it's just like get to the All-Star break, and hopefully the guy gets a little bit of a breather and comes back strong. But when you're asking whether to put him in the bullpen, or when you start hearing people making comparisons to Edwin Jackson, that's not a good thing.
Yeah, you don't want your name in the same sentence as Edwin Jackson unless it's about how much money you got paid.
Right. And so that takes us to game 2, Drew Smiley versus Aaron Nola. Cubs are going to lose this one to 8-5. For the second straight game, the Cubs starting pitching struggled, and this time it was Smiley. He gave up 5 runs in the second inning. He gave up a 2-run homer to Edmundo Sosa and a 3-run homer to Nick the Stick. Castellanos looked really good this game. The Cubs were down 5-0 in the second inning. In the fourth inning, he gave up doubles to Kyle Schwarber, Nick Castellanos to make it 6-1. A single to Bryce Harper would score Castellanos to make it 7-1. And that would be it for Smiley. He went only 3.2 innings. He gave up 9 hits, 7 runs, 1 walk, and 2 Ks in that short amount of time. Hayden Wesniewski came in out of the pen, and he pitched pretty well. He went 4.1 innings, gave up 2 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, and 4 Ks. Michael Rucker pitched 1 inning of scoreless ball. He continues to look good. Nick Castellanos finished the day 2 for 5 with a home run and 4 RBIs. We talked about how Drew Smiley lately, sometimes, if you're a pretty good pitcher, and that's what Smiley is, he's a good pitcher, but you can get away with things sometimes. But lately with the walks and the hard contact, he was keeping the Cubs in it, but you knew there was going to be a matter of time before, an offense is going to break out and capitalize on those type of things. And that's what happened this game, and just wasn't good.
Right. Well, and again, right away, the starting pitching, go back to game 1 and now in game 2, and we're going to talk about game 3 in a minute. The starting pitching put the Cubs in a hole immediately, right? And in a 5-run second, that's a big hole to climb out of. If he doesn't give up 5, maybe the Cubs have a fighting chance in this game because they did score some runs in this one. But when you're immediately down game after game after game, that's hard. And the Cubs starting pitching has been really good this year. It's just you don't want all the guys to go the wrong way all at the same time.
Right. And the good news is the Cubs offense didn't look as sluggish as it did on Tuesday night, but unfortunately, and we've been down this road many a times, they couldn't get the big hit to get them back into the game. Jared Young made his first start of the season and hit his first major league home run in his first at bat in the third inning to make it a 5-1 game. Swanson would add a solo home run in the fourth. The Cubs down 7-2. The Cubs were down 8-2 in the fifth when they had their best chance to make a comeback. They loaded the bases with no outs for Christopher Morel. Aaron Nola's on the mound, right? And Morel's been struggling, and Nola jumps out to ahead of Morel 0-2. And you're just looking like, oh God, this is a strikeout. He's going to put him away. But Morel took the next 4 pitches and drew a walk. Magical would score, and that would make it 8-3. But I was so impressed by the plate discipline of Christopher Morel, especially in that high leverage situation. You know, like how sometimes guys get super jacked up when the crowd's roaring and you know, you came all the way back and he didn't bite at any of the garbage that Nola threw. And so I was excited. And so the Cubs get a run out of that. Then they catch a break, right? So there's still no outs, right? Bases loaded. It's 8-3. Ian Happ hit one that would have been an easy double play for Josh Harrison, but Nola stuck out his glove instinctively. The ball deflects off it. And so the only play Harrison has is the first. Talkman scores, and the Cubs trail 8-4. They got one out with runners at second and third. So you're thinking if you get a single here, it's a 2-run game. You're right back in it, right? So you only have one out. You got runners at second and third. They catch another break when Dansby Swanson hits one right back to Nola, who started a sloppy rundown of Nico Horner. Nico was on third. He's obviously caught off that. But Nola didn't run him all the way back, and that allowed Nico to keep the rundown going and allowed the runners to advance to second and third. So even though it was an out, you still have runners at second and third for Cody Bellinger, who would pop out to Trey Turner to end the threat. And the Cubs offense had 5 runs on 10 hits. They left 7 men on base, Dustin, and 0 for 8 with runners in scoring position.
You will not win a game, Crawly, with that stat. You will not win a game 0 for 8 with runners in scoring position. It's just not. You just can't have that. You won't win it. You will not win a game when you do that. So, shame on starting pitching and shame on guys not stepping up in the big moments. I do agree with you. It wasn't impressive at bat that Christopher Morel had, but just no timely hitting whatsoever. 0.
Nope, and that'll continue in game 3 when Kyle Hendricks was facing Taijuan Walker. The Cubs would lose this one 3-1. Kyle continued his string of good starts. He had 5 starts in June, Dustin, and 4 of them were quality starts. The one game that wasn't quality starts, he was only able to go 5 innings and gave up 2 earned runs. But he has absolutely pitched excellent since starting to call his own games. And last night against the Phillies was no different. He gave up a leadoff home run to his old teammate Kyle Schwarber. Can you believe that? Kyle on Kyle crime. 2016
But
Cubs.
see, that's what I'm talking about though. Again, like right away, and you talk about right. It was the first pitch of the game, and you're in a hole. I just think at every single game in this series, the starting pitching set a terrible tempo. Put the Cubs in a hole immediately, and that's a big part of why they get swept.
Well, look, Schwarber hits home runs and Hendricks struggles in the first. I'm not that upset about it. You can't leave a pitch to Schwarbs right in the middle of the zone. So, I mean, we know that right away. He gave up a double to Trey Turner, but then was able to get out of the jam thanks to some poor base running by Trey Turner. He stole third so you got a runner on third and 1 out. He didn't tag up on a fly ball by Nick Castellanos for some reason. And then Hendricks was able to get the next 2 outs to get out of the jam. So good on that. In the third inning, Cody Clemens and Trey Turner singled. Turner would steal second with 2 outs. And then Bryce Harper had a clutch single with 2 outs and put the Phillies up 3-1. That was all the Phillies would score against Hendricks as Kyle went 7 innings, giving up 6 hits, 3 runs, 4 Ks, and no walks. The bullpen continues to look sparkling as Merriweather and Leiter pitched scoreless innings. Again, this is what Kyle Hendricks is right now. He's going to give up 2-3 runs. I mean, Dustin, you should be able to come back from that.
Oh, absolutely. Listen, he had a quality start. There's no doubt about that. I'm just trying to figure out something, put my finger on some reason it's Thursday. You're a professional athlete. You have all the best care and best treatments. There's no more. The London trip is over. The London trip's in the rearview mirror. So that the Thursday, that's not an excuse.
I mean, that's when you talk about the offense. So I thought after the Cubs put up some runs in game 2, right? This is usually what you see. The Cubs kind of look dead ass, and then all of a sudden they kind of start getting some runs. Maybe they're late, maybe they're garbage runs. And the next game you see them kind of put in a good offensive performance. But it didn't happen. And here's the thing. Taijuan Walker was the starting pitcher. He's been really, really good lately, but he didn't look that great last night. And the Phillies made 2 defensive errors, but the Cubs couldn't take advantage, and they wasted numerous opportunities. The Cubs got 1 run in the bottom of the second when Cody Bellinger singled, and then with 2 outs, Jared Young ripped a triple down the right field to tie the ball game at 1, but the Cubs wouldn't score another run again, even though they had plenty of opportunities. And there's 2 specifically that we need to talk about. In the 4th inning, with 2 runners on and 2 outs, Nick Madrigal bunted straight to the first baseman to end the inning. I have no idea what was going on there. Then in the very next inning,
neither did David Ross.
Right. Then in the next inning, Mike Talkman reaches on a classic fielding error by Schwarber. Still not the greatest out there in left. Nico would single, and then and so the Cubs had runners in the corners, no outs. Christopher Morel up the bat, right? He's hitting third in the lineup. He finished the game 2 for 3 with a double. He had a double, but for some reason, he tries to bunt. Now, Nico's going to advance to second, and the Cubs would have 1 out and runners at second and third. Ian Happ would line out to the second baseman, and Swanson was called out on strikes to end the threat. But that was the last time the Cubs came close to scoring. The offense had 1 run on 7 hits. They drew 1 walk. They struck out 9 times. The Phillies had 2 errors, and the Cubs were 1 for 10 with runners in scoring position and left 9 men on base. Just ridiculous.
Absolutely ridiculous. Recipe for disaster. 1 for 10 runners in scoring position, striking out 9 times. This team should not be striking out this much because they lack the home run ability overall as a group. They strike out way too much for a team that does not have the slug numbers.
Well, and then afterwards, David Ross was asked if the bunts were called from the dugout. And he said, absolutely not. He said, that with the Madrigal one, Madrigal forgot how many outs there were. How do you forget how many outs there are? I mean,
and you wonder why he gets sent up and down, right? People wonder why he gets sent up and down. It's moments like that.
Let's put it this way, Dustin. Would you want him bunting with 1 out even?
Well, with 1 out, maybe. I mean, I wouldn't want him to, of course, but with 1 out, maybe, but not with 2. I mean, with 2, my mom knows that you shouldn't do that with 2 outs.
I mean, just absolutely. I mean, you now have 3 scoreboards in Wrigley Field to check the outs if you're kind of not sure. It really isn't that hard, buddy. You're really not that hard. Maybe you're not the big, some people don't like the scoreboards. You got 3. So there's no reason you don't know how many outs there are. And then I guess with Christopher Morel, he thought it was the right decision. The Cubs talked to him afterwards about when you're a number 3 hitter. I mean, it's just, you have in baseball, there is no clock. It's the one damn sport where there's no clock. And so you have 27 outs to work with. You gave away an out for no reason. If he makes contact with the ball, he hits one, even if he hits one in the outfield and the outfielder catches it, you score a run, you're down 1. The guy, just absolutely ridiculous. David Ross was quoted as saying, not our smartest ball game. And guess what, David? No duh.
Yeah, well, he was right. He was absolutely right. Now the question is, will Nicky Madrigal be in the lineup later on today when they've got an afternoon game against the Guardians? We'll have to wait and see. This is the second season. It's episode 48. Cubs blow it with bad bunts. And in this segment, Crawly interviews the Spanish voice of the Cubs, Miguel Esparza, to discuss what it was like in England during that London series.
Joining me now, live from Wrigley Field, el voz de los cachorros, Miguel Esparza. How are you, buddy?
I'm good, man. I couldn't be better. Look at behind me. Let me move it a little bit so you can catch that scoreboard behind me over there. Doing good, Crawly. How are you?
I'm doing great. I will tell you. I will tell you. I was a little bit jealous watching your Twitter, man. I'm looking at you, and you're over at London, and it looked like you were having the time of your life, and that's why I wanted to have you on. I wasn't there. You had the firsthand experience. So it was who was the one that sent you over to London to cover this series?
So it was the radio station. So it was in conjunction with the Cubs as well. But I had my sponsors, which was amazing to have to be able to get out there. So it was a cool, just a little all together kind of thing. So it was good.
Now, I saw you got to do a little sightseeing, being the big music guy that you are. I saw you on Abbey Road. What else did you have a chance to kind of take a look at?
We walked around that Thursday morning, man. I'll tell you, Crawly, every day that I was there, minimum, I walked 5 miles. And that was just, that was enough for me. I won't walk, for another month or two. But I was able to go to Tower Bridge, which was beautiful. Like everything you see out there, the London Tower itself, where the crown jewels are now at. It's amazing to just see the history behind everything. Obviously, Big Ben. But yeah, Abbey Road was big. Abbey Road, just the fact that I knew that's where the Beatles walked and where they recorded their music. And so it's, like you said, I love music, and it was good to get to do that. That was one. There was two things that I wanted to do, and one was Abbey Road and the other was go to this market. And the market did not let me down whatsoever. It was amazing.
Now, I know there was a lot of different activities there. Were you able to, when did you first get to the Olympic Stadium?
Friday morning for the workout. That's that's when I went there. Thursday, I was able to go to Trafalgar Square, which was where they had the fan experience. I was there on Thursday. It was pretty cool. They had, the batting cages. They had pitching cage. They had tops out there doing everyone's baseball card with a bat and everything. So it was pretty cool. The people were enjoying it. They had like food trucks. It was cool to see that home run derby video game. That was pretty cool. People were loving that. And obviously the Cubs won there. So we really went two out of three in London.
Yeah, they should count that, right? So Trafalgar Square, you're there, and they have all the different. It's divided in half, right? Half Chicago, half St. Louis.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't think. I don't recall it being divided in half. I know what they did have at the stadium. That's where they had different areas. So when you're walking around the stadium, you had one part which was Chicago food. Then you'd walk around and you get to St. Louis. So that's how they had that area divided.
Okay. And so you get there on Friday. Did you have a chance to talk? I know you talked to a lot of the Latino players, whether it's Christopher Morel or other guys. Did you have a chance to talk to them about the experience at all?
Yeah, they were loving it. I actually caught, who was it? It was Miguel Amaya, Javier Assad, and Manny Rodriguez was out there as well. Well, I caught them sightseeing. So I looked up the corner of my eye. I was like, I know these guys. So, chatted them up a little bit. They were loving it. They had that opportunity that Friday to explore as well, because they had that workout, and then afterwards, that's when they were able to go explore a little bit. They also had a boat tour that they took. They had a gala at Westminster Abbey. So they had a ball, man. I'll tell you, everyone was loving it out there. The first one on Friday that I saw that went to take it in was Jan Gomes. He's Brazilian, loves soccer, walked around, and he was just looking at that stadium. And, it must have been a special moment for him.
That's West Ham Stadium that they played in, right?
Correct.
Miguel, I only know that because I watched a lot of Ted Lasso, but I was excited to see that. But when you think about it, I talked to Michael Ivory from UK Cub fans. Michael and Rachel very well. And you got a chance to see them, right?
I saw Rachel. So it was cool to catch up with Rachel. I met a couple of people from Spain. It was just the experience in general was very cool to get to see all these Cubs fans out there. And like I said, you had the people from Spain that were there, and they were loving it as well. Like, so it was a very nice experience to see.
Now, when I talked to Michael from UK Cub fans, he said, like, compared to the Boston New York series they had, it seemed like they went much more all out for this series. I mean, when you were walking around the stadium, were there different kind of like signs and different kind of things to take pictures in front of?
Oh yeah. They decked that stadium out. You had the video boards. You had so the theme was old rivalry, new land, or new something along those lines. And so they would have like different areas where you could stand in front of. They had these people dressed up in glass, and you would take pictures with them. They had some people on stilts, and you could either do the Cardinals ones or the Cubs ones. So there was a lot of photo ops around the stadium for sure. It was very interesting getting to the stadium. You literally either had to get an Uber or go on train. There's no parking in that stadium, and then the Uber would drop you off like, I don't know, like a mile away that you had to walk into the park. So it was interesting all around. To get an Uber to leave the stadium was another story. It was wild.
Now, obviously, they played 2 games. They played Saturday, they played Sunday. And Saturday, I mean, it just the excitement and the opening of that and the fireworks and the first pitches and all that stuff. It seemed like that, especially from a Chicago standpoint, with the Cubs winning that one, that the vibe, it seemed like it was, I mean, maybe I'm just being, biased, but it seemed like there were more Cub fans than Cardinal fans. Is that in my own head, or was it pretty even?
I agree. There was quite a few, like you'd see a lot of Cardinals fans, but maybe I'm being biased, but I would hear and see the Cubs fans, how they were into that game. Now, on Sunday, when the Cardinals won, you could hear it was pretty loud in there. The Cardinals fans were really loud, so they really wanted that game, obviously. But I want to say, and this is just me probably being biased, 60-40 at least, Cubs fans taking the lead. That's how I saw it. And my eyes nobody's going to tell me what I didn't see.
and hearing the fans on Saturday singing "Go Cubs Go" when it was all over. I mean, that was just a viral moment, It
was so cool, man. It was one of those experiences. They also played Sweet Caroline. That was cool. Everyone in that stadium was singing Sweet Caroline. But the Go Cubs Go. So towards the end of that game on Saturday, the DJ started playing the "Whoop There It Is" every time a run scored for the Cubs. And then I think it was in the 9th inning. There was another run came in, 8th or 9th. And the run came in, and he played "Go Cubs Go," and he took it right off. And he was like, "Oh, it was cool because he caught it right away and was able to go into the "Whoop There It Is." So it was you had that really Wrigley experience out in London for sure.
Now, Miguel, I know that you've gone viral numerous times for your Spanish calls, which are very enthusiastic. They're a lot of fun. And I remember all sorts of great ones that you've done, whether it was Christopher Morel or Javi Baez, just a lot of fun. But one of them that went viral over that was a British announcing group. The way that they were very excited. Did you have a chance to talk to your British counterpart at all?
I did not. I didn't see them. I didn't know where they were sitting. I did talk to the Spanish broadcasters for the Cardinals. They were out there, Benji Molina and Polo Asensio. They were real cool people. So that's the only thing that I like about the Cardinals is their Spanish broadcast team.
Well, that would be cool. I mean, and if for those of you that don't know, and I know Boog Sciambi always mentions it at the beginning of the game, you press the SAP button on your remote. Right. And this is what our friend Danny Rocket does to practice his Spanish, is listen to your broadcast. But that would definitely be cool to kind of have a little bit of a crossover if you went into their booth and vice versa. You know what I mean?
Right. It was cool. They were sitting next to us. It was a cool experience to get to know other Spanish broadcasters. They've been doing it for a long time, and they're the nicest people that you could ever meet. So it was nice. One of the highlights, some of the players from West Ham gave Christopher Morel a jersey. from the team. So he was super excited about that. He was surprised about it. He was like, "Oh, this is for me," and also he posed with them for a picture. So those were like those little moments. That was on Friday, so it was very nice to see as well.
Miguel, I wish I could have gone. I couldn't. But my dream always is as MLB starts to expand further and further, to try to grow the game. It would be a dream of mine to go see the Cubs play in a Latin American country, whether Mexico or the
Right.
DR. I mean, I know that's got to be somewhat in the back of your head as well.
Oh, for sure. I would love to do it in Puerto Rico, obviously. My mom being from Puerto Rico, like that would be amazing just to go out and being able to broadcast out there. And that, as I sat there in London, well, when I walked in, it was like that Friday, I was like, I walked in, saw the stadium, and I thought to myself, is this real? And I was like, it is real, but really Saturday is when it set in. And I was like, man, I'm broadcasting a game from London. And not only a game, it's the Cubs, it's my team. So it was very special just being out there in general. Zach Saidman turned around and said, "Miguel, you nervous?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely," because we had them right in front of us. It was pretty cool as well. We had them in the front row. Like we were right behind Pat and Ron and Zach. And he says, "Why are you nervous?" I said, I'm not, it's the good nerves, it's the kind of nerves that you have that excitement, you have that just the atmosphere, everything about just that London series and the first game in particular.
Yeah, and we've had you on the podcast before and talked about how you got your start and everything like that. Could you just imagine as a child that one day you would be going across the pond to broadcast a Cubs game in England? I mean, it has to be something like a pinch yourself moment.
Right. No, absolutely. Well, and forget about just the London part. Never did I imagine that I would broadcast a baseball game in itself, and let alone for the Cubs and in London. So it was one of those special moments for me personally, just to think of where I came from and where I was able to go because of my voice and what I do.
Right. And so, obviously, we would have loved the Cubs to sweep them out there. They didn't. But, hey, from everyone that I talked to that's been there, they told me it was an experience that they will never, ever forget.
Right. No, I'm there with them. It was one of those special moments. And yeah, you had those first 4 runs in that first inning on Sunday, and you felt good about it because of how that Saturday game went. And you were like, okay, they're continuing. Unfortunately, you had a little mishaps here and there, and that's it. But, hey, they traveled that far. Let them take one, too.
You're always as generous. Miguel, tell our listeners where they can follow you on social media to hear your calls and see your, like I said, that's how I was watching you in London. It was through your social media.
Thank you. Yeah. Miguel's Voice on Twitter, Miguel Esparza Radio, Instagram, and Facebook. And you can listen to the broadcast, like you mentioned, Crawly on Marquee Sports Network. Switch it over to SAP. You can catch it there. You can catch it on the MLB app and in Chicago, 1200 a.m.
Miguel, thank you so much for jumping on. Like I said, I know you're at Wrigley.
Thank you.
And do me a favor. Can we get a win here? Can we beat these Phillies?
Man, that's what I'm hoping for. The last thing I want is for them to get swept. So hopefully today we can do it. Hopefully Kyle Hendricks will rally the troops.
All right, Miguel, you take care, buddy, and great talking to you.
Same here. Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Great job, Crawly, with that interview. It's season 2. It's episode 48 of the Fly the W670 podcast. We're calling this one Cubs Blow It with Bad Bunts. And in this segment, we're going to get into the news, notes, roster moves, and preview that series, which starts later today against the Guardians. Don't forget to listen, download, review. Most importantly, subscribe to the podcast. Follow us on the socials, Fly the W670 on Twitter and Instagram, Fly the W on Facebook, or email us at flythew670gmail.com. All right, Crawly, after getting swept, let's talk about the standings.
Yeah, remember we were feeling really good. The Cubs had won 9 out of 10, and they were 2.5 games out of first. Well, they have now been passed by Pittsburgh again. So Cincy in first place. They're back on their winning ways with the 2-game win streak. They are tied for first with Milwaukee, who is also on their own 2-game win streak. And Pittsburgh passes the Cubs with a 3-game win streak. And the Cubs have lost 4 in a row, putting them in 4th place at 37 and 42. And St. Louis has lost 2 in a row, so they continue with their struggle, 9.5 games back.
Yes, indeed. That's the only good news out of that graphic, Crowley, is that the Cardinals are still sitting there in last place. All right, let's get into some of the news and some of the roster moves.
Yeah, some exciting news for a couple of young Cubs. Pete Crow Armstrong and BJ Murray will represent the Cubs at the 2023 Futures Game. That game is held on All-Star Weekend. If you remember, Brendan Davis was the MVP of the Futures Game not too long ago. Miguel Amaya was the MVP of the Futures Game at one time. I'll say 2018, 2019, right around there. So this is Pete Crow played in it last year. So this is a chance for him to shine on the big stage with baseball's best youngest talent.
I love Pete Crow Armstrong. I'm a huge fan. Super excited that he's getting this opportunity and going to get a lot of eyes on him during the All-Star weekend.
Now, obviously, the All-Star Game is going to be held in Seattle this year, so I am very much wondering if they are kind of just keeping Pete in Double-A until after the All-Star break, and then see if he maybe gets that promotion to Iowa after he participates in the future game. That's what I'm kind of just looking at right now.
All right, that's an interesting take, and he needs to keep moving up the ladder. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, the interesting thing about Pete is that like every time it looks like there's a hole or a deficiency or he's getting exposed, he's able to come back and kind of correct the issue. And that's the key to baseball, man, is just, figuring it out how, it's that game of chess where they try to figure out a way to get you out and you got to find a way to kind of combat that. And it looks like that's a skill he really possesses. So that's going to, I believe, help him when he gets to the majors.
Yes, absolutely. He's going to listen. He's got all the tools. He's going to be super exciting when he gets up here. I think they just can't rush him. You want to keep his confidence, but incremental moves is the right thing to do.
Yep. And we had some roster moves, and the Cubs surprised people on Tuesday. Crawly, yours truly, broke the news. I'm sitting there, outside Lucky Doors, which is kind of my hangout. And who do I see? So the Cubs players walk across the street on Waveland from the parking lot, and they go in this door. Who do I see but Jared Young from Iowa? So Jared Young has been ripping it up at Iowa. He's a corner infielder. He could play third. He could play first. And I'm watching. I'm like, that's Jared Young. And I took a picture, and it blew up on Twitter. I was mentioned in MLB Trade Rumors, a great Twitter site. So I was excited about that. So that was a picture I took. I didn't take a picture of Miles Masterboni, who was optioned to Iowa. And boy, oh boy, he was not happy when he came out with a luggage cart and a luggage that he did not have when he walked in that day. So not happy.
Not happy. It's a move that needed to be made. And we just went through the series against the Phillies where there wasn't a whole lot of offense. And Jared Young's name got mentioned multiple times for actually providing some offense that the Cubs barely had.
Right. He had a home run. He had a triple. The guy was making good contact. So, really good to see. He didn't play that first game, which kind of course, irritated me. But I'm glad to see that he was in the second and third game. And then you got to think that this is also having something to do with the error that Nick Madrigal made, or not Trey Mancini made in London.
Yep. So, yep. Absolutely. Yep. No doubt about that. And we'll see if Jared can do some good things, and maybe they won't be calling Matt Mervis up anytime soon.
I wouldn't say that much. I would say that they really, they need Mervis, and I'm not. I was talking to someone the other day on Twitter who said, Mervis can't hit triple, can't hit major league pitching, and that's way early to make that after 150 at bats. That's ridiculous. Anthony Rizzo had almost the exact same numbers. Actually, Mervis's numbers were better the first time he got called up. So here's the thing: the Cubs need pop. And that's what Matt Mervis provides. Now, Jared Young is a really good hitter. He's, but again, we need guys that can put the ball out there, that can put up a crooked number. There's no threat on this team. They're not scared of anybody in this lineup. Nobody.
No, nobody right now. Absolutely nobody. No pop. Nobody to scare you. As good as Dansby Swanson has played, he doesn't scare you.
No.
So no.
Now, there were some moves made because of this. Brandon Hughes was transferred to the 60-day IL, so that's going to make room on the 40-man for Jared Young. And then Brandon Hughes underwent a surgical debridement of his left knee. They changed what they were going to do. Originally, they were going to undergo distal femoral osteotomy surgery. I can't even pronounce it. And the only person to really in the majors to come back from that injury, ironically, is Michael Rucker, who's on the Cubs. But the Cubs went with that with the debridement instead. That'll shorten his recovery time, and hopefully he might be back this season.
Fingers crossed, Crawly. Fingers crossed.
Stroman threw a bullpen Thursday to see how a blister on his finger would react. It looks like everything's all go for this weekend, so that's good.
That's great news. That's great news.
Yes. Seiya was out of Wednesday night and Thursday night's lineup with a stiff neck. So
Okay. Yeah, let's hope this doesn't last too long. Again, a guy that needs to be doing a whole lot better than he is for the Cubs.
Something that was surprising and exciting, Alexander Canario, the Cubs' ninth top-rated prospect, number 9 on the top 10 prospects, has started his rehab assignment in South Bend. Canario, people forget because of Mervis's year last year, but he led the Cubs minor league system in home runs. He is a big dude. He reminds me a little bit of Jorge Soler. He's fast. He's explosive. He can play center field, but with PCA, he could play corners and he can hit the long ball. Remember, he came over along with Caleb Killian, who's doing really well in AAA right now in the Chris Bryant trade. So good to see Canario back.
Oh, he's gonna be another guy that's gonna be a big part of when the Cubs are really good again.
Hopefully. And so Patrick Wisdom, I saw Patrick. I talked to him on Tuesday. He said he's feeling much better. And sure enough, the next day he's at Iowa. And he started yesterday and hit a home run in his first at-bat in Iowa, recovering from that wrist injury. So I love Patrick, great guy, and hopefully he comes back strong as well.
Yeah, I mean, they could use him this weekend. I don't know if it's going to be that quick, but that's one guy. I know he strikes out a lot, but at least he does have some pop.
Right. And as we talked about, there's going to be a whole flurry of minor league promotions. I saw Michael Aria. He's a right-handed pitcher from Myrtle Beach. The guy is an absolute stud. He moved from Myrtle Beach to South Bend. So I think I'm going to go hopefully check him out again. I was amazed when I watched him pitch. Right-handed pitcher Manny Espinosa was promoted from South Bend to the Tennessee Smokies. Shortstop Luis Vasquez was promoted from the Smokies to the Iowa Cubs. And the big news, the number 5 prospect in the Cubs system, Jordan Wicks, is one step closer to the big leagues as the 2021 first-round draft pick will make his first start for the Cubs against Omaha. So if you take a look right now at the Iowa Cubs, and I would say go watch the Iowa Cubs because they're a lot of fun and they put on a great show. And Des Moines is a city that's where the S's are silent, but it's always buzzing. You have 3 really quality pitchers up there in Iowa when you talk about Caleb Killian and Jordan Wicks and Ben Brown. So the future of the Cubs pitching staff is right in Iowa, and they may be worth your time to make that trip out there and see those guys.
Absolutely. That would be something fun to do on a weekend. All right. Something else that hopefully will be fun, Crawly, are the 3 games coming up against the Guardians. They're in town at Wrigley starting this afternoon.
Yep. 120 as God intended. Thank God we're back to day baseball. It's been a long time, right?
Too long.
So last season, the Guardians finished in first place in the AL Central, surprising everybody with a 92-70 record, winning the American League Central for the first time since 2018. They beat the Rays 2-0 in the wild card before losing to the Yankees 3-2 in the NLDS. They didn't make a lot of moves in the offseason. You had Josh Bell, who we were interested in for the Cubs for that first base job, and catcher Mike Zunino came to Cleveland. They lost Austin Hedges, Luke Maley, both catchers, and then infield outfielder Owen Miller. So they added, and they didn't really lose a lot.
No, they're just one of those really, really steady teams. They're always around, and you just wonder if they would just add a little bit what this team could be.
Right. And so right now they are part of the worst division in baseball, the AL Central. And they are now percentage points tied with the Minnesota Twins at 39 and 41 in first place. 4.5 games against the Chicago White Sox, for those of you that look at both sides of town.
So it's one of these deals where the Cubs could do the White Sox some favors this weekend.
Right? Absolutely.
All right, let's get into these pitching probables.
Well, so this looks a lot better for the Cubs because you got their two studs going in there. You got Justin Steele, and Justin Steele has a record of 8-2 with a 2.62 ERA. What can we say about Justin other than it's just been such a fun season to watch him pitch? He did have that little hiccup with the forearm injury. But, last time he pitched in London, he went 6 innings, gave up 5 hits, 1 earned run, and 1 walk with 8 Ks. That was a season high for him. Against Baltimore, he went 5 innings pitched, gave up 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 1 walk. And so, a good start there. And so you're kind of watching what Justin does, and every game is just basically a step. He's trying to just make a step back from the coming back from injuries. So that's really the key.
He looked good enough the other day, and yeah, you're right, just a little bit more steady progress. But you feel good. You feel good with him on the mound when you're looking to stop what's now a 4-game losing streak.
Right, and the thing is that game against St. Louis in London, that was only a second start back from the IL. So you're still kind of keeping a very watchful eye on what he is doing as far as his progress is concerned.
All right, so game 2, we got the blistered.
Wait, we still got the other side. We got Cal Cantrell.
Cal Cantrell. You know what? Every time I hear Cal Cantrell, I feel like the Bugs Bunny, right? You remember that the character with the mustache and the pistols and the hat, Cal Cantrell. Yeah, that always reminds me of that.
The little mouse.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
All righty. Well, Cal Cantrell doesn't have a mustache, but that much I could tell you so far. But I do know he has a 2-4 record with a 5.61 ERA. He started 11 games for the Guardians. The last 2 games don't look good for him. Against Baltimore, he only went 4.1 innings pitched, gave up 8 hits, 8 earned runs, 2 walks, 3 Ks. And against the Chicago White Sox on the south side of town, went 4 innings pitched, 4 hits, 6 earned runs. He did better against the Mets, but the Mets are their own mess. He went 5.2, gave up 6 hits and 3 runs. But, gave up 8 runs his last start, 6 runs the start before that. So, come on, Cubs, do something here, right?
Let's keep that coming, right? You got him. He's going the wrong direction. You want to keep him down while he is struggling, if you will.
Right. And as you mentioned, Marcus Stroman, 9-2 with the 2.47 ERA versus Tanner Bibby, 4-2 with the 3.79 ERA. When you talk about Stroman, that start against St. Louis, abbreviated, 3.1 innings pitched, 8 hits, 3 earned runs, 1 walk, 2 Ks. Had to leave the game because of a blister, that issue that came up. Remember that game, there was some bad defense. Originally, I think he was charged with 6 earned runs, but there was an error that they originally called a hit. Just a mess of a game. And obviously, Stroman was not 100%. Before that, against Pittsburgh, he went 7 innings pitched, gave up 5 hits, 0 earned runs. And then he faced Pittsburgh the game before, went 7 innings, gave up 4 hits, 2 earned runs. But, just having a sensational year. And hopefully he can keep it going. And hopefully the blister thing is what makes you nervous about this situation.
Right. Absolutely. But hopefully I don't know what they use nowadays. They used to use, I think, super glue to help close that up. I'm sure it's gotten much more advanced since then.
Who knows? But Tanner Bibby, 4-2 with a 3.79 ERA, had a great game against the Brewers the other day. 6 innings pitched, 3 hits, 1 earned run against a really good Arizona team. He went 5 innings, gave up 7 hits and 3 earned runs. He struggled against San Diego. His start before that, 4-0, 8 hits, 6 earned runs. But again, since then, against Arizona, 3 runs, against Milwaukee, 1 run. So he's a young guy. He's only 24 years old. He was their, 5th round pick in 2021. So young kid. Cubs, let's see what happens in this one.
Guessing that one's going to be a low scoring affair, Crawly.
Yep, absolutely has everything. Has pitcher's duel written all over it.
Yep. Game number 3, And this is where we gotta clear your throat a little bit.
Yep. Good old JMO. And I like his nickname JMO because I usually have to drink a little bit of that every time he makes a start. 5 innings pitched against Philly, 7 hits, 5 earned runs. Against Baltimore, 5.1 innings, gave up 8 hits, 4 earned runs. And then in Pittsburgh, went 6 innings, gave up 6 hits, only 3 earned runs. So he got the win on that one, but he's had 2 straight losses. We were really hoping that he was kind of starting to come out of it, but the last 2 starts against, 2 good teams, Baltimore and Philadelphia, just hasn't happened. But again, Cleveland's not this awesome team. I think Phillies that are hot right now, and I think that, Baltimore's a really, really good team. Maybe playing against lesser competition will help JMO.
We got to grasp to anything we can, right?
That's it, man. I'm on a wing.
There's no angle. There's no angle that's a bad angle when we're trying to figure out a way to get this thing straightened out. No doubt about that.
Right. That's all you can do, right? You can just sit there and say, please let something happen the Cubs' way. Now, for the Guardians, Aaron Savali is up. He's started 7 games so far, 2-2 with a 3.18 ERA. Against last start against Milwaukee, went 6 innings, gave up 6 hits, 4 runs. Against Oakland, 6.2, 5 hits, 2 earned runs. Again, that's not impressive to me. And then against San Diego, he only went 3.2 innings, gave up 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 4 walks, and 7 Ks. So he threw a lot of pitches early and didn't go very deep into that game.
No. Looks like a game that if Tyone can just keep things sort of okay, that the Cubs could keep themselves in this one.
Have some patient at bats, and that's really, hopefully get him out of the game early.
All right, Crawly, we now go into our hot and not, and I don't even know, is there a Cub that fits the hot category right now? Is that even possible?
Yes, we're going to forget. We're going to forgive him for bunting, but Nick Madrigal is 8 for his last 19 with 3 doubles and 1 RBI.
That was what I was saying, though. I was like, I can't know if we can do that. I don't know if we can forgive the bunt, Crawly.
We're going to have to forgive it. 421, 579 is his slash line. And then Cody Bellinger is starting to warm up a little bit. 6 for his last 17, batting slashing 353, 389, 412. So good to see Cody kind of getting it going right here.
Absolutely. It's he's looking good. I also thought I saw something on social media that he just got engaged to his swimsuit SI model recently. Got engaged. So
absolutely, and
to
congrats to Cody.
Couple. The happy couple. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yep. As far as the knots are concerned, Ian Happ, 2 for 17 with 2 home runs and 3 RBIs. You say that looks good. That's against the corpse of Adam Wainwright. If you remember that against the Cardinals, Ian Happ absolutely owns Adam Wainwright. But against everybody else, he is doing zilch, zip, nada. He's slashing 118, 286, and the power numbers look great because of what he did against Wainwright, 471 slug on that. And then the other guy you want to take a look at, and this is the thing, you ride the hot hand in baseball when you can. The Cubs did so with Mike Tauchman, but it's kind of going the other direction right now. He's 2 for his last 17 with 1 RBI, 7 strikeouts to 0 walks. He's slashing 118, 176. So in that game on Thursday, you saw Bellinger start in center field for the first time since he came off the IL. And so with Jared Young's promotion, you're going to see a lot less of Bellinger at first and much more of him at center field. And Tauchman will go into the traditional backup outfielder role, which is what he's much more suited as.
There may be a little DHing in his future as well with the Cubs. All right. So last week when we previewed the Phillies, Crawly, we kind of nailed it on the hot. So who's coming in hot for these Guardians?
Yeah, when you look at the Guardians, you can take a look really quick at Jose Ramirez, third baseman. He's always a great player. He has 1 home run and 6 RBIs. He has 6 hits for his last 16. He's slashing 375, 522, 625. So watch out for Jose Ramirez. Also watch out for Josh Naylor, 8 for his last 22 with a home run and 3 RBIs. He's slashing 364, 391, 682. So right now, the Guardians offense is really on fire. I mean, I picked those two guys just because they're at the highest, but even the guys below them, Will Brennan, who is the right fielder, is batting 353 in his last 7 games. Josh Bell is 313 in his last 7 games. Andres Jimenez, their second baseman's batting 300. So they got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 regulars that are batting over 300 right now in their last 7 games.
That's pretty good. That's nothing. The Cubs have nothing like that at all.
Right. Now, as far as the knots, I mean, even the, left fielder Stephen Kwan is struggling. 5 for his last 22. He's slashing 227, 292, 227. And shortstop Ahmad Rosario, he is really struggling. 4 for his last 21 RBI. So he's slashing 200, 304, 350. So those are the guys that you don't have to really worry about right now.
All right, Crawly, prediction time. Big series after getting swept. Cubs need to do something here. I will go first. I'm going to say they're going to take 1 of 3, unfortunately. I think we just talked about how well the Guardians are hitting, and we don't have the Cubs hitting very well. I'm hoping to be very, very wrong when you and I get back together on Monday or Tuesday.
I always like to see Steele and Stroh in a series. I always feel confident that gives you a chance for 2 wins. But then you got J-Mo in the 3rd start, and then I'm nervous about Stroman's blister.
Right.
I'm going to try to be the positive one. I'm going to try to be the optimist and say the Cubs take 2 of 3 here because you know what, Dustin? They have to. Their backs are against the wall. Now when we talked about Carter Hawkins earlier in segment 1, he says they're going to wait until the very towards the end of July after the All-Star break to make a decision whether they're buyers and sellers. But they don't have a lot of time to keep playing around with this. They have to do something, and if not, then again we get back into that conversation of what do you do with Cody Bellinger? What do you do with Marcus Stroman? What do you do with Trey Mancini? What do you do with some of these guys? And are those going to be pieces that you're going to sell off? And if you do, how many steps back are the Cubs taking for next season?
Right. And Marcus Stroman's name was a name brought up yesterday on the Mully and Haw show with Bruce Levine. And Bruce Levine says he expects the Cubs to trade Marcus Stroman. And if he was asked for advice, that's what he would do. Something we'll definitely get into in the next episode. So that is a wrap, Crawly. We're wrapping up this one. Don't forget to listen, download, review, subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. Follow us on the socials, Fly the W Facebook, Fly the W670 on Instagram. You can email us, flythew670gmail.com. And of course, Crawly, you can watch us on YouTube by subscribing to the 670 The Score YouTube channel.
And nothing brings a smile to my face than hearing Cubs playing Cleveland. Remember 2016, Cubs fan. It's never over till it's over. Go Cubs! Hey guys, it's Crawly. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. If you want to see more of our videos, be sure to check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date with our latest episodes. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Go Cubs!